Pilot Steve back with you. This time I'm going to do a more technical video on one of my last flights from New Orleans Lakefront Airport back to Spruce Creek, and it was about a 2.5 hour flight, so it'll give you a good idea of what the actual performance statistics were while in the air, and I'll try to go over this with you. As you know, the G3X has a continuous recording log on the data card throughout the flight, and there are a bunch of different parameters. I mean, everything you can think of is there. I've picked a few here on the screen that I think are interesting. The top part of the screen has true airspeed versus fuel flow, and the bottom screen is indicated altitude versus vertical speed. So when I climb and descent, you can kind of see what the fuel flows and all. As you'll see when I go across, you can sync up the top and bottom data with the two charts. And if you look here, I'll try to show you some of the options you get. I mean, like I said, everything that the Garmin G3X records is here. So you could spend hours on these charts and graphs. It's a free upload. I highly recommend Savvy's Aviation Site. You can also buy a plan so that if you see something unusual, you can upload that to them and they will analyze it for you. They will also use AI of some kind to look at cylinder head temperatures and those kind of things. And if something is out of bounds, they'll send you a notice. So it's kind of an interesting site. It's not expensive, and I do highly recommend it. But let's go through the flight. I'll try to do the best I can. I'm not an expert at these numbers. I use them to go back and look at flights just to see if anything unusual happened, and get some actual numbers that I can look at and kind of analyze and see what I think might be the best settings. But let's start with the beginning of the flight. You can see here I'm on the ground. Altitude is very low, no speed. So, it takes that much time to get warmed up and taxied out. And today I was taxiing to 18 left, which is the furthest place you can go from the ramp to get onto the runway. And then you can kind of see right in here is probably where I did my run up. And I can expand that. I can zoom in on that, and I'll show you that in a little bit and get the exact details of what I did. So now you can see the takeoff. You can see the altitude and fuel burns and everything going up fairly quick. I was cleared up to 9,000 pretty much when I departed. So you can see down here is altitude. So it's easy to see my climb, and then the black down here is vertical speed, and vertical speed's over here. So you can see I was trying to do 1,000 feet a minute pretty much all the way up. Push the power up to about 85%, 90%, somewhere in there. You can see the fuel burn during that time was 9.8 gallons. And I'm sorry, but one thing that I hope Savvy does is allow you to pick colors for your lines. He picks them, the system picks them. So here both were blue, both fuel flow and true airspeed were blue. So one thing I can do though, let's go ahead and pick appearance, and we can bold the altitude line, so it does look a little different. All right, so you can see I was climbing on up, and the fuel flow is 9.7, and the true airspeed as I got up went up to 182, and then back down. When I pull the power back right in here, you can see I was at 9.7, and that gave me 182 knots, but that's at 9.7 gallons per hour. So if I was in a real hurry and didn't care about burning the fuel, I'd have probably left it there. But I like to pull it back and do a cruise, especially on a longer flight like this. So I pull it back, and this is right at 85% power on the gauges. You can see I'm doing 7.6. That's the sweet spot, I think, on the 916 for the eco mode. If you barely touch the throttle at 7.6, it jumps up to 8.5 and tries to go on up. So the Rotax 916 has the eco mode, which I assume probably keeps the turbos from going in full. But I like this fuel burn. 7.6. I'm at 9,000 feet, doing 174 knots, true airspeed. Today I had a nice tailwind, so of about almost 30 knots, so I was doing over 200 knots across the ground, which is good enough for me. And we can go down here, and you can see my indicated altitude. And you can see the vertical speed jumps up and down. That's just the autopilot holding altitude along the way. It looks ragged, but you don't feel it in the airplane. And then we come all the way over to here. When I start, they start stepping me down close to Daytona. So you can see here at 9,000, they're going to drop me down to 8,000 to start. And you can see my true airspeed goes up top to 188, because I left the throttle exactly where it was, but just pointed the nose down a little bit. So, and you can see my vertical speed here is about a minus 600 or 700. I think that's what I set it on. I'm running the autopilot most of the time here until the landing, just to see what the plane would do. So anyhow, so we're back level off now at 8,000, and I haven't touched the throttle, so we're still burning 7.6, but our true airspeed is 173. And then once again, they gave me another step down from 8,000 to, this is 6,000. So you see they're stepping me down through the Daytona airspace. And once again, I'm doing about minus 700 feet a minute, something like that. You can see that's where I like to descend at, unless I'm in a hurry. And here they've kept me at 6,000 feet for a while. And now they finally gave me my step down all the way down to whatever I needed for a visual approach. So there again, I was fairly close to the airport at this point, so I went ahead and stepped up the vertical speed down to about 1,000 feet. And you can see the fuel flow's down now because I pulled the throttle back and put the nose down like that. Especially as you get lower to the ground, you're going to start picking up bumps. So you want to keep it in the green. You don't want to go too much into the yellow unless it's smooth air. So pull the power back, point the nose down, get the vertical speed down to about 1,000 feet a minute, and come on down. And at this point, I don't know if you can tell, but I probably clicked off the autopilot and hand flew close to the pattern. And we can do a little detail analysis of the landing here in just a second. But that's the flight. So basically at 9,000 feet, you're looking at about 175 knots true airspeed. And if you want to get that true airspeed up, you're just going to have to go higher. Or push the throttle forward and burn more fuel. It's up to you. All right, so let's zoom in. You zoom in on these areas by just kind of picking the area you want and dragging the mouse over the area. And when you do, it'll zoom in. So now we've got the zoomed in point to where we were here at 9,000 feet, and you can see the step downs again. But now our landing is a little bit more detailed because we're zoomed in. So let's even zoom in a little further on the landing. We'll go ahead and just get just the landing phase. And now we're zoomed way in, and you can see the parameters of my altitude here coming on down. And like I say, this is probably where I turn the autopilot off because I'm hand flying. And I'm in the pattern, landing, and you can see the vertical speeds and all are not as consistent as when the autopilot was on, but that's what you got to do. It's kind of a windy landing today, so I think that's why a lot of these parameters are jumping all around. But you can see here I probably touched down right at my airspeed 67 knots, maybe a little lower, 52 knots right here, I guess, when it quit flying. So this is a good way to zoom in and see something, you know, if you want to detail the importance of something on your chart. Well, that's the flight. Like I said, it's a good site to put all this data in. Garmin allows you to upload the data, and they can graph and chart it somewhat too. I haven't looked at it in a while. I will, and see how theirs compares to Savvy's. But I wanted to give you a little bit of numbers for a cross-country flight. I've got some others at different altitudes that I'll go back and analyze, and I'm going to try to put all this in a spreadsheet for you so you can see at each altitude, maybe 1,000-foot increments, what the actual performance is. As I get more and more flights, I'll gather the information and get it to you. And if you like this kind of detailed information, let me know, and I'll try to do some more Savvy screenshots like this and get them up to you. They're kind of time consuming, so it takes me a little bit of time to get all this set up and get the screen recorded like this and everything. But anyhow, I hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate all the comments, and Pilot C, we'll see you in the next video.